Hello, and welcome to Racing Incident, a Formula One podcast and sometimes other motorsports in an American accent. I'm Anna, and joining me again, as per usual, is the lovely and talented
Hello.
Tasha James. Hello. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm okay. I'm okay. I'd say a little better than medium. Maybe. So that's good for me.
Yeah.
Where are
that's
you on a
good.
scale of
That's
1 to
all, yeah,
10?
that's good.
Yeah.
Right. I'm at like a 4.5.
Oh, yeah, because of your headache. Because of your headache. Tasha has a
Yeah.
headache.
Oh my
Everyone
God.
send her.
It's just one of
Hopefully
those
she's better by the
days. Yeah.
time you're listening to
Yeah, I
this.
hope
But if not,
so.
send
Yeah.
her.
if I'm not better by Wednesday,
That would be concerning.
I'm going to the hospital. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, well, I'm sure you will be. So,
Yeah.
I
just need like a nice hot shower and I'll be fine.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, those do help because they
They do help. Yeah.
expand your blood vessels and yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's the science
Yeah,
behind it. I was just like, oh, this is
that's
just my
right.
witchy way
That's
of
it.
making
No,
things. Yeah.
no. There's actual. You thought you'd like figured out something magical there.
Right. Darn.
No,
Yeah.
it's because the heat. Yeah, that's why people will put like the some people will put that hot, like whatever, like you can get like these things that you can put water, hot water in it, a hot water bottle.
Oh,
I
hot water
guess,
bottle.
basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I have a heating pad. I have an emotional support heating pad that
There you
like
go.
stays with me at all times.
Yeah, you can use
Yeah.
that. You could try putting it like wherever you're feeling the pressure,
Mhm.
and yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
medical advice is over for now. Maybe there'll be more later. I don't know.
This is our American healthcare system at work.
Right, seriously. That's exactly right. That's
Take
exactly
it in your
right.
own hands.
We have to give each other advice on podcasts instead of actually getting medical care. Like, this is how we have to get medical care. No, it's not a joke. Like, I was just
No
telling
copay.
Tasha, I had to switch doctors recently. And I'm like, okay, I need to make an appointment with my new doctor. And my appointment is in December. And listeners, I made this appointment like 3 months ago. So it's even worse than it sounds. Yeah. So anyway, but we have the best healthcare in the world. A lot of people believe.
Yeah.
That's anyway, as usual, please remember to subscribe to us on YouTube if you're watching there, or even if you're not, just go there and subscribe and then like leave and you never have to come back again. That's fine too. But especially if you're watching on there, please do subscribe and leave us a comment if you'd like, and help us out there, and subscribe to us on all the podcast platforms, of course. If you're listening on we're available everywhere in all the places. You can find us all everywhere. And rate and review us if you have a moment, which actually it literally takes a moment to give a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts.
So easy.
Yeah, like it's so fast. Exactly. Like right now, while you're listening, if you haven't done it, just go ahead. I'll wait.
So easy.
Okay, I won't actually wait. I'll just keep talking, but you go ahead and do it. Yeah. We're trying to get up to 50 ratings on Apple Podcasts. We've got like 23 currently. So help us out there. Yeah, and on Spotify would love to get as close as possible to 5 stars. Currently at 1.5 due to an unfortunate incident of being review bombed by some people that were not happy about something that we posted on Twitter, which is sad. I mean, it's like, you can disagree with things people say, but why do you have to review bomb their podcast, especially when we're like a small independent podcast? Like we're not those pit stop guys or whatever. Like people review bomb them. I'm not sure if I support it over in general, but I'm kind of like, okay, well, they're extremely popular, so that's not going to hurt them. They're already popular, meaning, that they already have a lot of listeners. So anyway,
Yeah.
And follow us on the socials, of course. We are at racing_incident on both Twitter and Instagram. Tasha and I both did join Threads.
Yes.
You can,
It's been fun.
I guess, yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, I kind of like it there. What about you?
Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, for me, it's like very dead because I
Yeah.
don't have, like, I'm not Instagram based originally.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like you can't, if I could take people from Twitter, that would be much more useful.
Yeah.
Twitter is like, everyone has stopped listening to anyone on Twitter, I think.
Yeah.
Even if you have a high number of followers. That's not true for everyone. Like people who are like F1 Twitter people are still getting all the engagement. But I feel like for a lot of other things, and I'm sure there's lots of other corners and pockets of Twitter that there's still tons of activity and engagement. But like for me personally, it's like, I was like, oh, a new platform. Maybe people will actually be talking to each other on here. Oh, for me, not so much.
I think it's just I think it's worth getting on Threads. Like, if you're listening, I do think it's worth getting on there just to like find your new community. I think that it's kind of hard to like, it's not like Twitter where you have like a main feed that's like yours right now. Instagram is kind of curating it for everybody.
They're going to add it eventually. They said.
I hope so.
Eventually, they will be a feed of just who you are following.
That
which is
lovely.
like, Twitter has that now where like people, it's got the for you and who you're following. So you can switch back and forth between the two. On Threads, if you're not there yet, so far it's just for you. So you can't actually see a feed of every account you followed yet.
Right.
But it's going to probably come. I mean, I'm not super optimistic, I guess, about it because like, all these social platforms that are run by like the, evil corporations usually end up the same way.
Yeah.
Like you've talked about how Instagram became that way, that as far as like used to be all this engagement and all this, and then it was like,
and then they've the sponsors came in.
There's
and then
this exactly.
Yeah.
And so I mean, probably the same thing's going to happen. So I'm trying not to. I'm not investing like a ton of time and energy into it because of that. Because it's like I just can see like there. I even posted this thing. Somebody wrote out this long like. Wasn't that long, but it was like, this is what's going to happen to Threads. It'll be like every other thing before it, that's by Meta or another company like it or whatever, and I'm like, this is it. This is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
This is exactly right.
We're here for a good time, not a long time, guys.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. I did have fun checking to see if all the F1 drivers had joined, if all the teams had joined. Predictably, all the teams, of course, have joined.
Yes.
The F1 main account, though, as far as I can tell, hasn't, or at least not last I checked. At F1.
F1, yeah.
The people that, but all the teams, of course, did, because those are run by, people who are social media type people.
Yeah.
So they all joined, but not every driver has. There's, some of the old, well, I don't want to say the older drivers even because Lewis is not one of the younger drivers, but Lewis is a social media whore.
Yeah, Lewis is on there. Yep.
This is one of the things that I do relate to Lewis about. Like we've talked about this a lot. I do not relate to Lewis on a lot of other levels and things, like the skydiving, the things like that.
Adrenaline chasing. Sports,
not interested. No. I do like to drive fast, and he has admitted that even though he never drives, like he says when he drives, he will like go faster than he should, and so he's like, so it's bad. So I just don't drive, and he did say traffic irritates him. I am the same.
Yeah,
I'd really like to just go as fast as possible.
And
spend
as little time in the car as possible. Yeah.
No, I don't. It's not that I mind spending time in the car. I just would like to be going fast.
Got it.
I don't want to be stuck behind like a slow car or you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, where's my DRS?
You want to feel like you're in motion. Yeah, exactly.
Yes, exactly.
I always wish I had like one of those like little lasers. Like it's like my imagination's like, oh, if I had like a little laser, I could like blast that car in front of us and they'd like disappear.
Yes. Not hurting anyone, of course.
No. They would just vaporize and then like
exactly.
That's fine.
Yeah. Or like you're like turn on your like hovercraft, like flying car. That would be great when you're sitting there and you just fly away. That would be fantastic.
Yep.
But I do relate. Yeah, I relate to Lewis being a social media whore because I'm like the same way. I really relate. Like I'll try every new social network. I like when people interact or like things like Lewis. You just know that he pays attention to that stuff.
Yep, absolutely.
Like he pays attention to a lot of stuff. Like
yeah, he sees everything, and it's kind of scary because it's like, where do you have time for all of this with your 100 responsibilities every day?
I know. Yeah, but when you think about it, it fits over everything. Like how many times are you there with your phone in your hand like that you could, you could spend some time. It's probably like more like, he just does it whenever. It's not because you see him all the time he's in the press conference, he's on his phone.
Yeah.
He's in the
that's true.
He's always on his phone.
I'm like on the phone.
Lewis and I are the same in that respect. I am always on my phone. It's so bad.
Yeah, you're gonna have to surgically remove that thing from that man's hand.
Yeah, seriously. You always think about it. You always see like he walks in carrying one thing into like the paddock, and it's his phone. Now, a lot of other drivers, I'm sure, have their phones too, but he's always got it in his hand.
In his hand, yeah.
It's not in his pocket. It's not in his back pocket. It's not in a backpack. It's not in.
Well, have you seen how tight his pants are? Of course, he can't put it in his pocket.
Oh, come on. He wears a lot of the ones that aren't. I have a whole thing about that.
Do you?
There are other people too. There are people, so on Rashi's page, I'm sure people know on Instagram, Amazing Lou Rashi, who keeps track of all of Lewis's outfits and who's been on the show, and you should check it out. I can link it for you. She's like, yeah, there are people that, or somebody, when she was on the show, somebody submitted a question like, when is Lewis going to stop wearing like baggy pants or like big, like he likes to wear things with a lot of, yeah. And she was like, and first we couldn't even understand what they were talking about because they called them something like those ones from like the 90s or the whatever, what were they called?
The jeans, the Jinkos?
Or the yes, that's it.
Oh
that's
my
what
God, those are huge. Yeah.
I know.
Oh, wow. Throwback.
For all you youngins, I can put a link as well. Yeah. But yeah, so, and she was like, people ask that sometimes, when's he gonna, and I do like him in a more fitted pant personally.
I do too, yeah.
I mean, like when he wore that suit at Fashion Week at the Wales Bonner show, I mean.
Oh wow, yeah, that was,
people
I think it's probably
died.
one of his best looks.
Yes.
Me.
Yes.
Me, I died.
Yeah, me. I am
coming
people.
to you from the afterlife right now. Yeah. I'm a ghost. Yeah.
Yeah. Not really here.
Exactly.
Just an apparition.
Yes.
Yeah, that one stands out in my mind. Is that one is like also that like red one that was like also like a suit with also a more
Oh, the Jacques Mousse one?
That's right.
With the leather, yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. That one's like almost on the same level for me. And then like also, I mean, I really like the Rick Owens from this season with the black with that was
a good one.
He just looked like a samurai or something. It was,
I kind of wish you do the Rick Owens boots. Like that's where I really want to see.
Yeah, the ones with the heels.
Yeah, I really want to see him in Rick Owens like signature.
You gotta believe he could do it probably because he's probably got good 100%. Balance and yeah. I mean, he's like so fit. Like, because a lot of men, even if they've worn things that are a bit elevated, probably would be like uncomfortable. I think but when you're like extremely fit, I think, and have good balance, you could probably do it.
Yeah.
So yeah. That's the fashion segment. Now there's so much to say about. It's hard. It's hard not to talk about Lewis's outfits, like know. So we'll do. We're gonna do just some quick news first, and then we are going to get into our questions that need to be answered, which is what I think we're gonna stick with. Really, I feel like that's it's
enjoyable.
There's a lot of questions that need to be answered.
Yeah,
in Formula
You'll never
One,
run out of content there. Like,
no, never. Yeah. So just a few quick news items. I mean, I'm sure there's probably like a lot of other news. Honestly, I have Google alerts up the yin yang, and I have not looked at any of them because I'm very busy. So there's probably a lot of other things going on, but just a few things that I pulled out were that there's an interesting thing going on with where there are some parties in Formula One, namely I think Liberty Media and those guys who would like to negotiate a new Concorde Agreement sooner than the date that they're supposed to. For people that don't know, the Concorde Agreement is like this, agreement between Formula One management and the teams and the FIA. And I guess there's more should be known about it, honestly, than is, which describes everything in motorsport.
Most things, yeah.
And especially in Formula One. But it's, it lays out like a bunch of things, people's, responsibilities and whatever. And it's also, that's where it says how much money the teams get. That's usually the way we hear it mentioned, as far as, the way that the money is distributed to the teams and all these things. And that's where people have heard about it a lot recently. And since F1 is entertaining potentially new team entries, and how there is this anti-dilution fee that a new team would have to pay if they enter Formula One, but the teams are not keen, because when this Concorde Agreement was initially negotiated, F1 wasn't experiencing this boom that it is right now. And now that it is, they're like, no, that anti-dilution fee is not big enough. And we're going to need a lot more money if a new team comes in to dilute, because see what happens is like the money gets split up in however many ways, even though the idea being that if a new team comes in, that maybe there'll be more money and that anyway, now there's more money than when they initially signed this agreement. But people are kind of greedy in Formula One.
Just a little bit, yeah.
Still just a tad.
A tiny bit.
Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, what I found fascinating is that and I'll link you guys to this piece that's quite long and comprehensive about this, that the Associated Press did, that Jenna Fryer, who's been covering motorsport for, I don't know, forever. But to me, what was interesting was how she talked. I think she actually talked to Mohammed bin Sulayem, the president of the FIA, and he he had some interesting things to say. He said he didn't seem to necessarily have an opinion on whether it should be, negotiated sooner rather than later, but he said that and said in a wide-ranging interview, which, when a journalist writes that means the person said a lot. The person said a lot, and I don't even know how to get all of it into this article.
Wow.
So
Wow.
I guess he actually is not keen to do it earlier. He thinks it's fine to wait. He's like, our house is not on fire. We need to talk to each other and get the best for all of us. Ben Sulayem also cautioned against any maneuvers that could potentially weaken the FIA's governance of F1. And like, this is really the interesting part, because as people recall, there have been all these, kind of spats, between the FIA and Formula One management, with Formula One even going so far as to kind of suggest sometimes that maybe it doesn't need the FIA.
Yeah.
That maybe,
do it on their own.
He said, if you want a strong FIA, we have to work together, and we have to empower the FIA, because FIA is the regulator. They are the owners of the championships, which is true in a way. It's called the, they'd literally have to like call it something else, I think, if the FIA were not involved. Yeah. When you go to the United States, speaking, for example, this is still Mohammed bin Sulayem talking, you can speak to the big OEMs, the manufacturers. And the reason we can is because it is an FIA championship. If it is not an FIA championship, it will end up like the WWF, with no regulator, no governing body. You need a governing body. Now, this is... You really think that these multinational corporations are going to waste their money on something that they don't trust? He asked.
The more you're reading this, the more I'm just like, does he know he's talking about the FIA? Like,
I mean,
I don't know if he knows what the perception of them is, but
I think he must know. Of course he has to know.
I think they're delusional at all. Like, every time they speak, I'm just like, whatever you guys are seeing is not what the rest of us are seeing.
You know what it is? Also, I also got the sense reading this that it's not. I mean, again, this is something people could probably have figured out just from the outside. But things are not well organized in that organization.
No, not at all.
It's just like a mishmash of because he was like, before I became president, I didn't know anything. I didn't know about the financials. I didn't know anything. How is that?
That sounds about right.
Yeah. I mean,
now everything makes way more sense.
I know, right? It's actually very illuminating.
Thanks. Yep, that's all I needed to know. Great. Awesome.
Yeah. I mean,
figured as much.
He also is like, and he at the end he threw out a I guess, I hate to call it a racism card, since people, level that against people all the time. And it's really a true thing that they're saying. And maybe there's some, I don't know, but he said, this is another quote from him. Bernie Ecclestone said, "It's amazing how the president's like a ball being thrown to the Italians and the French and back to the British," said Ben Sulayem, an Emirati. And that's the presidency. It was not allowed to leave that certain area. And you come with my background and my skin color. It took me 12 years going nonstop to get here. I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's actually true. But, and there have been a lot of
12 years, you didn't want to like learn about the financials or like maybe that's why it took 12 years. I'm not trying to take anything away.
I think he means 12 years and like his entire, because he used to be a rally driver.
Yeah.
And I think he must mean like motorsport in general. I don't know. Maybe. This is what I mean about like, this is what people need to understand about Formula One and the FIA, in this case especially, is that we tend to think of, I think that a lot of people think of it, especially probably newer fans who are used to kind of more stable official institutions in a lot of other sports, look at and they're like, well, it must be like this, stable official. Nah, it's just vibes.
I don't even know the governing body of most other sports because they just run in the background. Like,
you don't
clockwork in the background.
Exactly.
The FIA is one of the only sporting bodies that I constantly read about, and it constantly gets worse every single time you read about it.
I know.
Like, it really is running off of vibes, and I'm not really even sure how much longer that's sustainable for. Because as they're making billions of dollars now, there does need to become some sort of organization in the sport, and you're going to have new teams potentially coming in, and the house is in a mess. Like, everything is in disarray.
Right.
Like, we can't have guests like this. Like, we need to clean up before they get here. Like, this is crazy.
I know. Meanwhile, the teams are like, oh, you can't come in unless you have $1 billion. I'm like, listen, I'm scared about people coming in who have $1 billion, because they're going to take a look around and be like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
I'm...
There's a lot going on, and Ben... He interests me. Yeah, he interests me a lot. I'm not really sure I'm not really sure that I feel like he's on like one of those like bucking Broncos, and he's just like holding on for dear life. You know what I mean? I think he thinks he's like so close to breaking it, but really like he's about to be like thrown off because I don't think that he's actually a good leader.
No,
I don't think he's a good, effective leader, and I don't think he has a handle on any of this. And like, God bless them if he thinks he can make an impact, but I don't think he's...
It's wild. And then like, I felt a little bit, I don't want to say sorry for him, but it was just very clear to me that he was using this interview to like bitch about every possible thing that he could.
He just wanted somebody to talk to.
Yeah. He's like, everyone hates me. I don't have anyone to unburden myself to. So Jenna, I'm gonna do it with you.
Yeah.
I mean,
like, sir, this is a Wendy's. Yeah.
Oh my God, exactly.
Please, I just want to go feed my cats. Like,
she's like, I really just wanted a few quotes. Like, but no. She's like, there 2 hours later, he's still talking.
Right. Right.
Because he was like, she went into kind of just the background of all the, how there have been all these, she called them bumps, like his spat with Lewis over the jewelry, this, that, the other thing, how he publicly, on like, there was that period where he was tweeting too much. Like he had tweeted about like that Formula One's not really worth as much as, I don't know how he put it.
Oh my God. Tweeted too close to the sun there.
Remember? Yeah, exactly. He totally did. And I mean, I didn't realize this was, I didn't realize this was a thing that happened, but his tweets led, in the story, she goes, his tweets led Formula One and Liberty Media's lawyers to send a warning letter to the FIA World Motorsport Council that the president had overstepped and interfered with our commercial rights in an unacceptable manner. They were like, how dare you say we're not worth $1 gajillion? Like, you shut up.
And I'm surprised he didn't summon them to the office to be reprimanded.
Well, see, now
how dare you speak up against me? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it seems that he probably would love to summon people to some office, but they want nothing to do with him, it sounds like. Because he talks about in the story, he's like, I'm available. People can pick up a phone and call me.
Yeah.
He's like the guy he's like the work person who like nobody wants to work with, but like they're there and they do like some task that has to be done and you can't fire them, and but like nobody wants anything to do with them. And he's like, can I come to the lunch? And everyone's like, I don't know who you are.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm eating at my desk. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Or he wants to join the group chat, and people are like, "Oh yeah, we don't do that anymore." You know, we closed that.
Yeah.
So I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, Ben.
So I felt a little. I'm like, oh, because I'm like, I tend to do that. I feel like kind of bad for people sometimes, even if they're not.
Empathy.
I don't know if he's a bad person necessarily, but. I don't necessarily have like, I don't care really one way or the other, but still when stuff like this happens, I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
Because I can kind of, I guess I can relate to that.
Yeah.
I can relate to feeling like unimportant, I guess, and kind of sidelined. So yeah, I know you and I have talked about this. Tasha's my unpaid therapist.
You, me, and Ben are going to start a group chat.
Imagine.
Like, we heard you were free, so we thought we'd give it a shot. Like,
I mean, Ben, it sounds like you need someone to talk to. We're here. Let's talk about the stewarding. Let's talk about all these things. You know, we got some ideas and thoughts. Or
just tell me about your day. Sounds like you're having a hard time. Like, let's
just have a cup of tea and talk.
Right.
You know, I mean, so yeah. From one slightly delusional man to another, I think this did not get talked about enough, honestly. This did not get talked about enough. That this is not so much a news story as I just want to dunk on him. If people didn't see, Lance Stroll, owner of course, the Aston Martin Formula One team, and, billionaire. I'm sorry, Lance Stroll, his father. Lawrence Stroll, of course. Yeah, I actually put Lance Stroll in my notes, and
Larry
so
Stroll.
that's wrong. Well, they both start with L, whatever.
Right.
Lawrence Stroll thinks that he should be knighted for what he has done for apparently the... I know, I can't even finish talking with a straight face.
Oh my God.
He thinks he should be knighted. He said he deserves a knighthood, having saved thousands of jobs at the British car company while also investing heavily in his, because of course it's Aston Martin, makes road cars as well, while also investing heavily in his F1 team's infrastructure. It was 6 years ago. I can't believe it's been 6 years that he led a consortium in buying the Force India team, and then it was rebranded Racing Point, as people will remember, and then it became Aston Martin when he took over the road car company, Aston Martin. So I mean, I don't know what to say. When you have a lot of money and you spend it doing things, you believe you should receive a knighthood for that?
I guess that's how it works. I think when you have that much money, you just are, I don't know, looking for new things to make you happy, make you feel something.
Right.
I will probably never know what it's like to have that much money,
No,
um,
we won't.
that I feel like I should be knighted for being a job creator, but,
I mean, it was like
one
very
day.
like Ayn Rand vibes,
Yeah.
like, I'm a creator. Yeah. I was like, oh, no,
It's
this
like you
is
created
not.
the New Deal or something. Like you just, jobs are important, obviously. Like no
Yeah, of
shade or
course,
anything to
of
that, but
course.
like, I don't know.
I mean, I'm sorry, but a lot of the people that work for, not everybody, but many people, I mean, actually, I would say almost everybody. I mean, really, people that work for Formula One teams are highly skilled, highly valuable people. So I'm not saying it would have been good for all those people to be out of a job, but I feel like
No.
if anyone would have been able to probably find another job, it would be people like that in a lot of cases. I'm sure. I mean, it's of course better to save people's jobs, but like,
Yeah.
again, he's it's like a firefighter coming to put out a fire at your house and then being like, okay, where's my medal? No, that's like your actual job. That's your job. You just did what you're supposed to do at your job.
It's your companies, so yeah.
If you're a billionaire, your job is to like buy companies and run them and sell them and this and that, like you're just doing your job, dude. Like, again, the confidence of the mediocre but very rich white man in this case is boundless.
There's like some points in my day where I'm just like, I wish I could switch brains with that person. I think today is Lauren Stroll. Like, I would love to know what goes on in there. Like,
yeah, same.
Just like take mine out, put his in. I just want to know what it's like.
Yeah. I don't know. It is actually,
Like, what are you thinking about? Like, was that an ad lib? Because you were playing in the bathroom on the toilet and you were like, I should be knighted for creating jobs in, like, what? Well, good luck to him on his journey. That's how I feel. Like, if you get that.
It's just, it's like this, it's this very particular type of, I guess, obnoxiousness of like, I've come in here from another country and I've done all this and I should get one of the highest honors that this country bestows on people just because I've come in and spent a whole shit ton of money.
Well, he's technically part of the Commonwealth, right? Canadians are
they?
Yes, I believe they're in the Commonwealth.
Really? Oh my God. I don't know how any of that shit works.
I don't know how it works either, but yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah. Well,
I guess England couldn't occupy us, so they decided to occupy our neighbors to the north. So
I mean, they occupied plenty of people. But
they were like close enough.
Well, we learned all our tricks from them,
Right.
We were like, you think you can colonize? Hold our beer.
Yeah.
I mean, really, we didn't get to like their level, I guess,
Yeah,
they had many more years.
So say they got into everything, but wasn't much left. Yeah.
So that's the news.
Anyway,
Anyway.
That's the geography lesson with Anna and
This makes me think of like, I don't know that much about being knighted, but there's other than it's a thing that happens and it's a big honor. But I feel like this was the British Grand Prix this past weekend, obviously. I did feel like this feeling of like, Americanness that I don't usually feel when I watch most of the other, like, do you know what I mean? Like when you watch like Baku or when you watch, I don't know, Spain or when you watch, but because British people think that they own world motorsport and because it's, mostly, I mean, there are obviously so many British people involved at all the different levels. And because they have that self-belief and they say it like the commentators will be like, this is the home of motorsport. And it's like, okay, well, maybe. But they believe that it is. Yeah. And so like when the guy that sang the national anthem, I suddenly was like, oh yeah, God. At first I was like, why is he singing God Save the King? Yes. Then it dawned on me that now it's the king.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, imagine changing your national anthem based on like,
I mean, imagine still having a monarchy.
right. Which is
know.
like in a lot, I mean, I think like in every European country pretty much, or a lot of other countries too, but they don't, I don't know if they all have it in their national anthem though. The British people really are like addicted to the monarchy. It's very bizarre. And I'm sure the majority of like average normal people think that it's very dumb, same as we do. At least having talked to British people, I think, you know, it's, but yet they're really into it. So I felt this like Americanness that I don't usually feel.
Interesting.
When I want, do you ever feel that way?
No, I mean, I felt like it was really British. Like I thought it was like quintessentially British. I mean, George was drinking tea. They were like, you know, I don't know. It felt very British to me, but I don't know. Maybe do you mean like, I don't know. It's an interesting perception. I've never thought of it like that. Yeah.
I think it's because I kind of resent, I mean, you know, we start every show, and this is a Formula One podcast in the American accent. That's one of the reasons that really we started, and that I, you know, that I think there's, for me personally, I definitely feel, and I think a lot of American fans sometimes feel that a bit of resentment, maybe that it's so, you know, dominated by British people, by the UK, by, you know, for a lot of people, they experience it only through Sky in the US. Like if you don't have F1 TV, you're experiencing it through only their lens. You're, you know, so, and I think there was a brief period where I was doing that before I got F1 TV. So I was like, this is, I mean, I like a lot of the Sky commentators. I do like, but I actually used to like them more than F1 TV, but I've like switched my preference to, because I really like Julian Palmer. In my next life, I'm gonna marry Julian Palmer. Not because I think he's like, it's like, it's like hard to explain. I don't, I'm not like, it's not because he's like attractive or something. It's because, I mean, not that he's like bad looking, whatever, but like, he's just, I don't know. He has this like nerdy, like, but yet like grumpy energy. I don't know. I just really like it. He's, and he always tells it like it is. He's never afraid to like slate any driver. Like he's not that anyone, you know, usually is, but I feel like a lot of the time people are kind of like, they're trying to be nice.
Yes.
Julian's like, nah. He's like, but yet with analysis and with whatever, you know, like he's just really good at that job, like really good. He was not great as a driver, but he is fantastic at this. If people don't have F1 TV, I do recommend it. Really, mainly for Julian. And there's other good stuff on there too. Nice. But you know, and as far as people who work for Sky, who we don't enjoy, there's definitely one this weekend who took the cake. I would say,
he single-handedly is going to make me want to get an F1 TV subscription because, I'm a little bit over it at this point.
You have to. Well, it's just nice, you know. You can ride on board with Lewis and whoever else you want, and it's nice. I recommend, because that way you don't have to listen to. And okay, so of course we're talking about Martin Brundle. Of course, if people don't know, I'm sure probably people know, but Martin Brundle had another, I don't know what to call it, had another incident with his grid walk. A lot of people probably remember many prior incidents he's had, maybe most notably as it relates to this, the one with Megan Thee Stallion, where he, it was at the US Grand Prix, and it is what led to what people are calling the Brundle clause. Because Megan had some private security with her, and they were kind of like trying to shove Martin aside, and even though she was perfectly nice to him, she didn't stop to talk to him, and you know, it became a whole thing, if people remember. And now it's become a whole thing again, because if people didn't see, he in Martin's, it's not charming. It's not charming at all. I think people think it's charming that the way he tries to like you know, put himself in this situation where a celebrity might say no, and then it's going to be, you know, a whole where he tries to press on and still try to get the interview even if they don't want to.
Right.
But it happens. There are plenty of people that have not wanted to talk to him over the years that he's been doing this. But why is it that with some people he keeps pressing and he makes a sideshow out of it?
Yeah.
So in this case, it was Cara. Now I don't know how to say her last name.
Delevingne.
Delevingne. Thank you. Well, now that's very simple. Now that you've said it.
Yeah, there are a lot of letters in her last name. Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of letters. I wasn't sure. I just wasn't 100% sure, and I don't like to mispronounce people's names if possible. So yeah, Cara Delevingne was there. She was a guest of Alfa Romeo. She is a model and actress, if people don't know. And she's, you know, fairly famous, right? And although to hear many people tell us she's a nobody,
right,
compared to Martin Brundle, which is insane.
Also interesting because, you know, British people love their pedigree, family pedigrees, and she has like a very, very, very
interesting
long lineage. Yes, like
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's an interesting. I mean, I know this first time. I don't know why I know this, but I do. And so, yeah, she has a very, so she's like a nepotism baby, but like on crack, like,
right.
From like nobility and all that stuff. So,
yeah. Oh, wow. Okay. Well, she does definitely have a royal air about her. You could say. Yep. And, yeah. And, so this is at this point, this is a farcical situation, and it is also a situation that just brings to light a lot of things that I think people don't realize. Actually, a lot of people think that it's just it's a nothing. It's not a big deal. Oh, she didn't want to talk to Martin, and people made a big deal out of it on social media or whatever, and okay, that's it. But what people don't understand is that this is, like, women are used to being treated this way. Yes. All women, whether we're famous or not. Like when somebody tells us to smile, or when people, you know, touch us in ways that that are inappropriate, or
you know, whatever,
talk to
you on the street and you don't,
or they want to talk to you, and you don't. That's right, and you don't want to talk to them, but they can't take no for an answer.
Yeah.
Or, you know, or when somebody, women have many times talked about how, like, well, so like someone will come up to them and want to talk to them, like at a party or in a bar or whatever, and they don't want to talk to them, and they will like try to follow them home, or they'll get vindictive, or you know,
verbally harass.
Yeah, just all kinds of stuff. And I don't think people don't have any appreciation for that. It doesn't matter if you're famous. It doesn't matter. You know, it doesn't matter. And so, and the thing with the Brundle clause, first of all, let's just, if somebody is still confused and doesn't understand what this is, and Martin flat out, you know, lied on international television, because he said, oh no, everyone has to talk now. Everyone has to talk. And so a lot of people came away with the notion that there was actually some kind of thing put into place whereby the F1 teams, the PR people, whoever were instructed that if you have celebrities coming to the grid, that they will have to talk to Martin Brundle. Like, people came away with that belief, and many people are still out there with that belief because Martin just ran his damn mouth.
Yeah.
And just decided to say that, like, that's no, what the thing actually is that because of the Megan Thee Stallion situation, which shouldn't have ever happened either. And frankly, I think even that's silly that they made that regulation that you can't have private security, because what if you don't feel comfortable unless you have it, you know, I mean, for people that don't know, Megan Thee Stallion has been like shot at and like been like, so she actually, you know, there are people again, or just when people are famous, sometimes, you know, it's just, those of us who are like regular people who nobody's attacking when we're out in public, you know, we can't understand. But if you have an ounce of empathy, you should be able to understand that it can be difficult when you're somebody that people want to talk to and accost and whatever. Anyway, so the actual clause is that you can't have private security anymore. You can't have bodyguards on the grid with you if you're a celebrity, which is even silly also. But that makes them more accessible. for Martin and whoever else, I guess, but mostly Martin, probably, because apparently he's a national treasure. And, you know, the people are people are laying flowers at the altar of the grid walk.
Yeah.
And Formula One and Martin Brundle in general, it's a holy space this is how people are acting. Yes. This is how people are behaving, as if this is some kind of as if someone like went inside a church and like took a shit. Like that's what they're like, you know what I mean? Or I can't think of any other analogy, but like something egregious, like as if she had done something like that, you know.
They act like she kicked a child on national TV or something, like something
or
horrific.
Killed a puppy.
Sacrificed a kitten on the grid walk. Like I'm so tired of this, and I'm so tired of this discourse. I'm so tired of this man. I don't care about the grid walk. I think it's actually horrible. I've always thought that it was useless in terms of TV production, because this is the main broadcast for Formula One in English. This goes out to us here in the States. It goes out to everyone else who is looking for the English speaking broadcast. Like, this is their F1's main product. And you have this man who is like so unaware of who these people even are half the time. I can look at the crowdies and I'm like, oh, that's whoever. I know at home. He has no clue. His producers have to tell him who to approach. And, you know, it's one thing if it stays lighthearted, like, you know, oh, you know, Cara, can I get a comment? And she says no. And then he like keeps it fucking moving and finds the next person to go speak to. It's this like rejection that he can't accept. So then he keeps pressing. And that's when it turns ugly. That's when it becomes a thing. And it's just like the fact that we're having to explain consent to somebody who is like almost 70 years old, and to the people who are defending a man who was in his like, most of whom are nowhere near that age. There's just a lot of people do not understand consent. People just do not understand it. And it's insane that it comes up in a grid walk. Like, let's, putting aside the fact of like, I mean, not really, in addition to how disturbing it is that somebody is apparently not allowed to say no on a grid walk at a race is insane to me. But that same content that we're seeing is being used to market Formula One. I don't know how this is still able to just be a thing. This has been, he's done it to Megan, he's done it to Venus and Serena, he's done it to Simone Ashley, he's done it many other times. Oh my God, I forgot about Simone Ashley. How is this not being something that Ben or, you know, Stefano, somebody being like, hey, well, I think we've established Ben has no power over the situation. No power, but Stefano, somebody needs to say, or just, hey, or even Sky, or the people at Sky, like the people who are in charge. Okay, Martin Brundle's not the boss at Sky; he's an employee. So people who are in charge, who are actually producing this broadcast, and who are, or whatever higher ups, you know, people. How are you still doing this? How do you think that this is good television? How do you think that this is now? Again, there's this contingent of people who think that it's extremely charming and it's so hilarious and, oh, isn't Martin cute? But it's not cute. It's not cute when you are, cute. Again, mostly targeting women of color or women in general with these types of scenarios where it's, again, lots of people have not wanted to talk to him over the years. And usually he'll just be like, oh, okay, they don't want to, and move on. Right. But why with the women? Why is it always with the women that it becomes this big production, that it becomes this, and then people have this reaction where they are like, how dare she not speak to Martin? I would give my right eye to be on the F1 grid, and I would love to speak to him. Dogpiling her is crazy. You're not, stop using your jealousy. Stop projecting your jealousy onto these celebrities that you're not on the grid there. I'm sorry. What do you think you can do for these teams? They're bringing these people to the race, to the grid, to the garage, to give them tour. You know, they make videos, they do whatever. They are bringing them there as a promotional tactic. Absolutely. You know, if you're someone who follows Cara on Instagram, or you follow her career, or you follow her acting, if you're someone who is a fan of the Jonas Brothers, or you're whoever, or you're a fan of the Williams sisters, or you're whoever, you know, teams invite these prominent people who bring attention to Formula One and to their teams and to the race and whatever. What are you going to do
Joe Schmo sitting at home if they invite you. And for people to have that attitude of, again, they should invite, real fans instead. Like, again, it's just a willful ignorance of how this whole thing works, how the
Marketing
economics
doesn't
of the
work
sport
that
works,
way.
how the promotional aspect of it works. I mean, if you guys were people saying this, if you were running Formula One, it would be like in your mom's basement, I guess, and you would not be making billions of dollars. And you would not, because you would invite the real fans. No one gives a shit.
Well,
I'm sorry, but
and that's just not how marketing works.
No, and
we're not trying to attract people who already watch it. We're not trying to attract people who already spend their money at these races. We're not attracting people who already are aware of Formula One.
Exactly.
Marketing is to reach out to new demographics. This is why it doesn't matter if she's a real fan or not. The point is it exposes a new audience to Formula One. And that's why it's a horrific look that the main talking point from this weekend is a gigantic steaming pile of misogyny. And you guys are piling on a guest of a team. If I'm a team and even like a sponsor of a team, Alfa Romeo, the representative, has all those patches on his shirt. Yeah. He's in that clip. Do you know what I'm saying? If you're a sponsor for that team. If people
are confused, the guy's wearing an Alfa Romeo shirt. Yeah. It was that guy that Cara referred to, like she tweeted about it because people were, probably, I can't imagine. But because this is how Formula One fans get. Again, these diehard fans who are gatekeeping the sport, who don't want it opened up to these new audiences, new demographics, etc. That is the underlying tension. I feel like that's what Elizabeth Blackstock, who I'd like to say is a friend of the show, we'll have her on at some point. She's a reporter at Jalopnik, and she's been covering motorsport for like a decade. Yeah. And she goes to, she covers all kinds of stuff. And she and and may I say, there was this guy, some PR guy, who his bio said PR guy in motorsport or something, I don't know, was arguing with her on Twitter about, and he and this is how men behave. He was he called her Liz at one point, and she's like, my name's Elizabeth.
Wow.
And it was the scenario of the, if people don't know, there's this very, very famous Twitter interaction that a lot of women know, where this guy was berating this woman for not reading the article, and she had written the article. And so this is what we are up against. We are up against people that think that we have no place here again. And that's why, arguably, I don't know if Martin's a raving misogynist or not, but a lot of these actions are kind of problematic and troublesome, and again, for people who don't understand this type of thing, you don't have to be, trying to go out and kill women to be a misogynist. You don't have to be, just like you don't have to be burning a cross on someone's lawn to be a racist. You don't have to be, there are a lot of those types of things, are sets of beliefs and values and things that people have that have been developed over many years, that they've, and they are often subconscious.
It's cultural. Yeah.
Often we're not ourselves aware of them, because nobody would say I'm a racist or I'm a misogynist, but you might be acting like a racist or a misogynist because you're not aware that you have these underlying kind of beliefs and ideas that you just aren't aware of them. You think it's just, this is the way everyone thinks and this is normal. And you don't even examine the way that you think about these things. And so it's you get I've seen guys on Twitter today, that they want receipts. They prove to me that Martin's a misogynist. Prove to me that, this is how, they always want a forensic detailed.
It's have you not been paying attention? The proof is on television. Every other race weekend.
It's just so difficult. It's so difficult. And so what I was going to say is Elizabeth Blackstock at Jalopnik, like I said, she wrote a brief piece about it that I'll link to. And I was actually glad that she didn't so much discuss the misogyny of it, but she discussed what I think is the central, really, other than the misogyny, which of course is, part of it, the central really issue, like what I was just saying earlier, is that you've got Formula One is growing. and it's being exposed to a lot of new and different audiences and demographics. A lot of people are getting interested, a lot more women, a lot more people outside the UK, a lot more people of color, a lot more, and you have these fans who've been fans for 20 years, whatever, 30 years, or who are not okay with that. Who think that it's ruining the sport. The Drive to Survive people, they're saying these Drive to Survive, where people call, DTS fans, and they think that that's a pejorative. Those types of people, the people who are the types of people that are defending Martin Brundle as if like he is their Lord and Savior. I just don't understand it.
As if he personally bought these people's grid passes.
I mean,
as if he personally paved this grid himself and painted all the lines. Like, it's Martin's grid walk. These are Martin's guests, I guess.
It's just unhealthy, first of all, to elevate any one person like this. Like, as much as, like, for example, we love like Lewis or like other drivers or we love other people. Like, it's not actually healthy to elevate someone to such a degree that you feel that they can do no wrong. Because actually we're all human and we all can do wrong and make mistakes, even if we're overall good people or whatever, which I don't know if Martin is. I mean, I have some questions now. I have some questions is all I'm going to say. I have some questions. I don't know. Obviously, I don't know him personally, but this behavior is not okay. And so what Elizabeth wrote is that, again, it's these fans. And I've experienced this in lots of other areas. I've experienced this, and I used to do a podcast about video games. Video games is another subculture that is also dominated by white men, or has been for years, and now it's less so. And when that happens, there is nothing more brutal and more, vicious than like white men trying to gatekeep their spaces, I have learned. It is absolutely the worst. So video games, comics, motorsport, I hate to say it, but is another one. I see it all the time. People are just not okay. Now, that doesn't describe all fans who are, hardcore long-term fans, because I've encountered a lot of people like that who are welcoming and who are, who don't gatekeep and who aren't concerned if someone comes to the grid who doesn't know the last, who doesn't know all the world champion. Well, even the drivers didn't know that. But only Sebastian Vettel's allowed on the grid. He's the only one allowed. But it's just, it's such vicious gatekeeping to have this attitude of that, what are these people doing here? What are they? And again, because this extends to other people too. We're talking about someone who's a bona fide celebrity in this case, but people say this about like the influencers that get invited to races and the, people, again, this is how marketing works. So I'm sorry.
F1 is a business, guys. I don't know if people know this. They're not a charity organization. They're a for-profit business.
They're not trying to find a cure for cancer.
They don't give a fuck about the fans, and they've made this very clear with the grounds and the different, you can read about all the different complaints. Once they have your money, they don't care. No. They're just trying to find new people who are willing to also spend money and, watch these races, and that's it. That's it. It's just, these people are not your friends. Martin Brundle's not your friend. Like, I don't know how else to say, like, a spade is a spade. Like, it's ridiculous. It's embarrassing. This does not happen in any other sport.
No.
No, celebs go to every other sport and they're not harassed like this. So
no. Like I was talking about this with someone, and I was like, think about like people that sit like courtside at an NBA game. Now, it's technically not exactly the same in the sense those people paid for those seats, so it's not like someone invited them like a team for a marketing, thing. But okay, those seats are obviously extremely, extremely, extremely expensive. So you might as well, it's a similar comparison in the sense that the average person, can't afford to be there in that space, courtside at a game. I have never once heard a basketball fan complain that a celebrity is there who might look like, sometimes they are really into the game, sometimes they're not. It's like you'll see photographs of people who are just kind of like, sometimes, again, they're really into it. And sometimes they're just there because they're celebrities and this is where a celebrity sits in the front row, courtside, and if you got to have the best. And so, and
nobody cares.
no one would say anything.
Nobody
No one
cares.
has a problem with this.
Yeah. I watch
Motorsport
tennis,
fans.
tennis. There's
Yeah,
celebs
I
there all the time.
know.
I think it's delightful. I'm like, wow, they look like they're having a blast.
Yeah, great.
I'd love to be there, but I'm not going to be in the
Yeah.
fucking royal box at Wimbledon. That's for literally the royal family. Like,
Yeah.
what makes you think
Yeah.
I'm going to just be sitting there, because I know more about tennis than them? Who gives a shit? Like,
This is not, again, this is
the
like
inferiority
the definition
complex
of gatekeeping.
is crazy.
The definition of
Yeah.
gatekeeping is to believe that, okay, because
Yeah.
it's gatekeeping, you're keeping the gates.
Yeah.
You're a keeper at the gate. So what that means is you think that there is a price to entry. You
Yeah.
think that for someone to say that they're a Formula One or a motorsport fan, that they have to meet some kind of criteria,
And
that
it's
they
silly.
have to, right? That's not, that's a bad attitude to have. I don't know how people can see that keeps people out. Don't you want more people to enjoy something that
No.
you also enjoy? Isn't it actually great and nice when more people start enjoying the thing you're enjoying? You have more people to talk to about it, more people to to be excited with about it, more people. You have to. It's so much nicer if you look at it that way. If you look at it as that, like, if here's someone, if you are one of these longtime fans, and let's say somebody new shows up, isn't it nicer to be like, let me tell you about some of my favorite races, let me tell you about this, and if it's a friend of yours and they might have questions about things, and instead, like, think about how you would act if it was your friend. Like, imagine that it's like someone instead of some celebrity who you think doesn't give a fuck about anything, and is imagine it's just like a regular person. How would you react if your friend was like, okay, can you explain what's DRS? Would you be like, get the fuck out of here? You're not allowed to be a fan. You don't even know what DRS is, or you don't even no, I don't think you would. You'd be like, oh, cool. You're into Formula One now also. Let me tell you all about it.
That's a normal reaction, but I feel like, we're just not in normal space, apparently. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's very disappointing. And it reminds people like us, women, people of color, or a lot of other people, it just reminds us again that this is kind of not a safe space for us. And obviously Kara's fine. This was just a, unpleasant situation and whatever, but to get harassment and abuse because you don't talk to this guy who's doing the grid walk is just
unreal to me.
My
thing is that he knows this is why I don't really give him a pass at all, because it's like with Megan, with a bunch of other people, Simone Ashley, and he's on Twitter. So he knows what happens. And I feel like that's his way of getting back at them, is directing massive amounts of hate directly to them. And I think that's the most cowardly thing that you can do as a man, especially in a situation where it didn't have to go that far. Because again, when you hear no, even from another man, you could just be like, all right, let me move on to the next person. And you decided to make it a thing. I don't respect that. I don't have respect for that type of behavior.
I think he takes like pride in it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he takes revenge. Some kind of pride in it. Like,
it's revenge. That I get the last laugh.
Yeah, exactly.
Major inferiority complex. Yeah.
It's really disgusting. Yeah. Like I think he had that in, I don't remember if he still had, I think on his Twitter or somewhere it was like, it said, I can because I did, which was like his, he's proud of this. This is not, and that's sick. That's just so disgusting.
Yeah.
It's just not okay. Yeah. It's just very frustrating. And I have to, one thing I wanted to say before we move on, because it's just so sad and depressing to talk about, is that, unfortunately, I was thinking about this, and, I realized that, F1 themselves or Sky or whoever you want, people that are presenting, I guess it's probably mostly Sky. I probably don't hear the F1 TV. This is why you have to get F1 TV. I'm telling you.
I'm telling you.
I don't hear them saying stuff like this. They're more, because they work for Liberty. They're trying to, they want to promote the sport. They're not trying to, they're not about the gatekeeping, right? Yes. So, so it's always very like, they even, Formula One, as we've talked about before, they added that there used to be just the two official Formula One podcasts, Beyond the Grid and the live, the one that they do every week. And and then now they've added Formula Y, which is like for, it is specifically geared towards newer fans, where they explain a lot of basics and go over things. And I'm sure there's even things I haven't had a chance to listen to it. There's probably things we can learn even, but I haven't had a chance, but I've heard it's very good.
Nice.
And so, so they have more of that posture, but you hear from a lot of other, areas and I guess it's more the Sky people, but I know I've heard them say before, oh, we love coming here. Like, these fans really know motorsport. They really understand. Like, I heard it in Montreal. They were saying they were, bigging up the Canadian fans for some reason. They were like, this is, like they make that distinction. They talk about how some races are somewhere where people really, really know their motorsport, and they're so knowledgeable, and they're these passionate, knowledgeable fans. When you say things like that, I mean, it may seem like it's like a compliment or something, but the implication being that there's some other kind of fan then that isn't that way. And you are making a value judgment that this type of fan is better, the more knowledgeable one, the one who, really knows what's going on, who's really, really clued in to everything. And I feel like if I were Formula One, I would try to do something about this. If Sky won't, or whoever else, I would be like, listen, we're trying to grow. And you guys are fucking it up.
Yeah, like, seriously, that's all I can think about, because I mean, I know nothing matters more to Formula One than money. And so I just like looking at it from the lens of like, how are you letting this continue to happen? These are celebrities. At this point, you're going to start having them not want to talk to this man at all. If you think the grid walk's awkward now, wait until no one lets their client talk to you, because they don't know how they're. Imagine sending your client
and they'd be
to a
within
race.
their right. They'd be within their
right. Imagine being Cara's PR publicist person, though. Like, you sent her to a fucking race, a car race. Now she is embroiled in some drama that she didn't ask for or to be a part of. That's you don't want to ever be in that position. Sending
and Alfa Romeo, who did whatever they, I don't know how, if there was, I don't know if there's payment, if there's whatever, what the situation is. But well, I mean, obviously, they only have a limited number of grid passes. It's they've gone to all this trouble. They've made, if people didn't see, like they, they've made their like little video. She sits in the car, she does this, she does that. And not that it matters at all, not that it should matter at all, but she's actually a motorsport fan. Like, she's driven a Formula E car. She's been interested in motorsport for a long time. Again, none of that matters. She could know absolutely nothing, and it's still okay for her to be there. But I'm saying that just as for the people that, think that, which I hope are not listening to this show, because not going to be much here for you. Right. But yeah, it's something has to be done about this. And I mean, I don't necessarily have a lot of hope that something will be, but I mean, maybe there have to be some more incidents or something, unfortunately, before. Maybe I don't know. I don't know.
On air.
Yeah, right. Now there's an idea.
No private I don't security. Condone violence, but I'm just saying. I feel like it's
no private security. But listen, celebrities, you can just do it yourself. I'm just saying. I don't think Martin's going to sue you for assault, because it's going to look bad. Yeah. So maybe something like that has to happen. Again, not promoting violence.
We'll see how far it gets.
But it's actually a type of violence for him to act the way that he does. If people don't understand that terminology, violence is not just. There are different types of violence. It's not just it isn't just physical violence. There are other types. And it is possible to be violent towards someone without physically hurting them. Right. So again, this is a type of, again, Elizabeth Blackstock, who I mentioned before, she mentioned this because people were on Twitter, of course, having a wonderful reaction to her piece. And she responded to some of them. And, she said, listen, I deal with this in the paddock. People have sexually assaulted me, or guys have not, taken no for an answer. I'm still a woman dealing with this in the paddock today. Right. Even as a credentialed journalist, so that should be the end of that. And I mean, I think this needs to be mentioned only because we've been talking about gatekeeping a lot.
Yeah.
And how gatekeeping is perpetuated by people within the sport as well.
Right.
Recently, we had a situation where a Mercedes engineer got into a now he deleted his tweet, but of course screenshots last forever. There was
it's the first rule of Twitter, guys. Twitter is forever. If you tweet it, somebody's screenshotting it. They might not use it in that moment, but it's gonna get saved and archived and used later.
Like, just think twice.
Tweet at your own risk.
I mean, we've all been there, right? We've all been there. We've all like said something we shouldn't have, right? Probably, So just think this, especially when you're in a position to have a lot of people looking at what you're posting, potentially because you're an engineer for a Formula One team.
Yeah,
an engineer, not even a mechanic. I'm just gonna say. Because that guy, I'm kind of like, I mean, I don't think that's cool either. But this guy isn't it. He's one of the guys in the crisp white shirt with all the sponsors on there. He's there in his little picture on Twitter. He's now I haven't been following him that long. I don't know if this is probably not typical behavior, I would assume, but. Anyway, for anyone who didn't see, it doesn't actually matter that much what the tweet was that he was responding to. First of all, the person who he was responding to is a big Mercedes and Lewis fan. So you're beefing with your own team's fans for some bizarre reason. But it was basically, well, I guess I have to mention what the tweet was about. It was about Karun Chandak, who I don't even remember anymore what it was that he said or did that caused, some people who are Lewis fans to be upset at him for the millionth time. I don't know, but
it was just because when he was commentating, he was saying a lot of things out of context. You know what I mean? Like George is beating Lewis or whatever, with no nuance, no context, just vibes, right? So yeah, that's
we get a lot of that, don't we? There's a lot of that. Yeah, I mean, people like last season, Lewis was doing all the experiments, and of course, often it's talked about, oh, George, beat Lewis in it. Well, that's not the full picture.
Yeah.
So yeah,
if we zoom
context
in,
is context is important. Yeah. So this person on Twitter was like, a fun fact about Karun Chandak. Which I didn't know any of this. So I think I have to read it. In the 2011 German Grand Prix, he was lapped 4 times by Lewis Hamilton. He was 2 laps down on his own teammate, Heikki Kovalainen. And he was also lapped down against a rookie, Daniel Ricciardo. Do whatever you want with this information. So it was like, oh, Karun, you suck. And, basically because they were unhappy about the things that he was saying.
Yeah.
Now, all of this is factual information, by the way.
Yeah.
Not that it necessarily, well, it does matter.
It's true.
If it was made up, it would be kind of bad, right?
Right.
But this is actually factually what happened in that race. And the Mercedes engineer replied, "How many Grand Prix have you competed in? I mean." Which he did incorrectly, because by the way, it's Grand Prix. If you're doing the plural of Grand Prix, you put the S on the grand part. So that's my pedantic note on that. Just FYI. Anyway, how many Grand Prix have you competed in? So if it should be crystal clear immediately what's being said here. It's being insinuated that you have no right to comment on Karun's racing record or something because you haven't driven in a race yourself.
That's like, all of F1 Twitter. What the hell kind of logic is that? None of us have driven in F1. What kind of idiocy
is this? Like I had like the stupidest discussions with some people that I regret to this moment having had, where I was like, yes, a lot of the people who are commentators are former drivers, and they bring, of course, a valuable perspective, absolutely. But there are also really good commentators who weren't former drivers. Yes. There are people that you don't actually have to, and a lot of the people who cover the sport, who write about it, who do very competent, very good analysis and, reporting on things, have not themselves been racing drivers. Yeah. That is an important perspective for sure, but it's not the only perspective, and it's not the only valid perspective.
Right.
Again, to have this gatekeeping mentality that you can't comment on it unless you have personal experience is like, what is that?
Yeah.
from a person who's working, this is a person working, trackside for Mercedes.
Yeah.
He's one of the, the guys on the computers, right? He's,
Yeah. I'm just like, first of all, Mercedes, the car is not in a position where you need to be logged on to Twitter, sir. Get to work, okay?
Yes,
like, log out and get to work. We saw how that car was functioning.
On this...
No.
I'll in fairness, like, they have lunch breaks, they have whatever.
I don't care.
Not on,
you have time to tweet, you have time to tune that car.
No, seriously, because like, unless this was the first tweet he came across that he replied, there would have had to have been some scrolling and some reading and some,
Like, what? I just am like, why are so many employees who are employed by Formula One teams so concerned what we're saying on Twitter? Why does it grate on your nerves that we're shit
It boggles the mind
on Twitter? It's all we have. Just let us have this one fucking thing. Please. This wretched world. It's all we have left. Okay? Like, just let us have this. You get to see Lewis Hamilton in person. Let us have Twitter, okay? Let us have Twitter.
And Roscoe.
Yeah. Oh my God.
The star of the weekend, obviously.
Carried the whole weekend on his back. That poor baby.
My God. He's, when I saw Lewis carrying him under his arm down the stairs of the motorhome, I'm just like, this dog has the best life in the world.
Ever.
Like, this is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna get another Roscoe cam if people didn't see. He was there with his little camera strapped to his wherever they put. I was like, all right, Roscoe's out here having to make content like the rest of us.
Yeah, exactly. Dad's putting him to work.
Put him to work. Yeah, no, he's a working dog.
He really is.
He might be more successful than Lewis. I don't know.
Yeah.
He like father, like son, I guess.
Right.
He's but I mean, it's this. I mean, I've seen. Let me say, from my personal experience in the media industry, in journalism, I've seen this behavior now, because what happens in any industry that is kind of public facing in kind of any way, which journalism is, media people, are obviously writing things and posting them, and people are reading them, and et cetera. And Twitter especially is very heavy on journalists and people in the media. It's been that way for a long, long time. And now it's like that for lots of other things like F1. But basically, in any industry, again, that's very public facing, you've got people that whoever it is, the customers, the audience, in this case, the fans, are going to be vocal and are going to often say things, some things that may not be, that may be uninformed, that may be that you as a person on the inside, you see it and you go, oh, like, they don't know what they're talking about. Like, it's actually like this, like if they knew, I feel like we talked about this briefly once before. Like, you've got two options. You can explain to people what the things are that they don't know, that you wish they did, that would have allowed them to have a more informed perspective. Or you can be obnoxious and snide and ask them how many Grand Prix they've raced in. Now, in this case, this wasn't even somebody this wasn't like the people who are like amateur aerodynamicists on YouTube who make videos being like, Mercedes should do this with their front wing, or their, where I'm sure if you're an actual aerodynamicist, you look at that and laugh hysterically.
Right.
Because so this wasn't even like a situation like that. This was somebody just saying, this is what happens.
Using facts to say that Karun sucks.
But what actually is, it was, you could look at it that way. You could look at it as a tweet about just why Karun sucks, which is, fair.
Well, it was like more pot meat kettle type of thing, like, right, tweet things without context, talk about things without context. Like,
yes, exactly. But actually, to again take it deeper, which we like to do on the show, there's a lot of people who are commentating on the sport who, again, because they're ex-drivers or have been involved in the sport in some other way, there are people who have, I don't know how else to say this, but jealousy, grudges, things that, maybe in their career, things didn't quite go their way. And now here they are having to talk about Max Verstappen or Lewis or Fernando or whoever, people who are having a lot of success, who are winning, who are doing, it's gotta hurt, right? A bit. It has to. Like they're only human. There's even if they have a great life, even if these are competitive people because anyone who's been a racing driver, who actually reached Formula One, especially, you have to be extremely driven, extremely competitive, extremely, that doesn't like go away when you are no longer a racing driver. Like people remain that way. And and especially, a lot of this is why Julian Palmer is my future husband in another life, because he has none of that. He has none of that ego. He was his career went very shitty. He was not very good, but he has none of that. He just does amazing analysis and commentary, and it does not affect him one bit that these guys are out there who are like his age or younger, who are doing these amazing things, and he's not. But there are a lot of people, you can tell that they are. Now, I don't know if that's true for Karun or not, but there are definitely people who have that, who give off that impression that they're upset that it's not them.
Yeah.
Or they're like, oh, this guy gets so much praise or so much attention, for being, and I didn't get that when it's a valid point. So, just, I think you're right, Tasha. Toto needs to take away everyone's phone.
Yeah, he needs to lock them in a box.
I mean,
we did not have the kind of weekend that people needed to be fucking tweeting. That's all I'm gonna say. If your name is not Roscoe Hamilton, I don't want you tweeting.
I know.
Like, he's the only one doing work this weekend, getting shit done. Everybody else,
hardest working member of the team.
Yeah, I don't know. Karun does not have any friends on Twitter, I will say. The masses of most of us see it for what it is, and people can defend him all they want. It's fine. If you want to be delusional, live in delusion. That's fine. I think at a certain point, though, a lot of us on F1 Twitter and just in general are like just kind of fed up with this crusade to belittle every single accomplishment of Lewis Hamilton, and like it comes across as more than salty. And then when you have basically an entire channel dedicated to it, so every commentator is on this wave of like, what can we do to shit on Lewis Hamilton today? And then they throw all these stones and try to hide their hands, and we call them out on it, and then it's suddenly they're being bullied, and suddenly it's well, how many Grand Prix have you driven in? And it's like, dude, you guys are living the dream. Nothing we say on here should even cross your minds. We're just bantering. It's fun.
And this is not, again, when you have, like, I used to take this very seriously when I was working in media. When people would say things to the extent that I could, maybe some things I can't. And I understand that people who work in F1 can't be sharing so if you're a real aerodynamicist, you probably can't make too many snarky comments on that guy's YouTube video, because it's not like you're going to be like, well, no, actually, this is how we do, because you can't do that. You can't talk about what you're actually doing technically and all that sort of thing. But there are a lot of things that other people can talk about. If there are things that you think that there's some mistaken notion about something, then explain to people what that is. You want fans not to bully you or not to whatever. If you think that, first of all, that's not bullying, I'm sorry. That's I mean, how Karun's still being bullied by anyone I wouldn't know, because he's blocked everyone. So
I got blocked this weekend actually by him, so I finally have made it into the club.
Yeah, by Karun. Our show count is not.
And that's kind of what pisses me off. I'm like, wow,
I don't know what he does. I really don't know what he does. I have no idea.
Well, it pisses me off because I didn't get to like slander him to his face. I mean, that's what I would have liked to be blocked for, not just like some.
Well, you're free to log into the show account at any time, because he doesn't have that one blocked, and say whatever you want. Just saying, open invitation for that. But yeah, no, it's such a bad look. To have, and I mean, people follow. Obviously, fans are going to very, very, very closely follow what anyone posts online who works for Formula One, who in any capacity. Like, there are people, all of these you have to understand that you're being followed by a lot of fans. Like, this is not the way to behave. But again, it's more disappointing that this is the way you think, that this is what you believe, that, it's not the way to behave from like an HR standpoint, but it's also not the way it's not a great belief system you must have about what makes someone qualified, again, to comment on a situation. And what, again, we're fans. Like, we don't have, like Tasha said, we don't have anything else.
Let us have this one thing. But it also is interesting too, seeing people work for companies and like have all their company info in their profiles. Like, I worked at the Apple Store, and we weren't allowed to tell people we worked at the Apple Store, like online. Like, we weren't allowed to, because anything you say online reflects the company. So it is very interesting to me that people will have their whole name badges and banners, will have the Mercedes. Like, get a burner account, people. Get a burner account. Like, seriously.
I mean, I don't know which way to go on this. I kind of want to tell them to do that, but on the other hand, I'm glad that we can see who they really are, in a sense,
Yes,
kind of
but
too.
like, I'm just thinking about it from like a standpoint of a company. Like, how do they not have a social media policy? I went to the Apple Store at a mall, and I'm like, they don't. Steve Jobs wasn't going to personally write an email saying he was disappointed in me, but like, no. Can't be tweeting stuff and like being crazy. So
no, it's just not okay. Like, this is not. I mean, I was I wasn't like fired or anything like that, but when I was a reporter, I used to. I of course have had the same Twitter account for a long time, and I would tweet things, and I would be like, and I think I remember one instance where I was covering an event and I was tweeting stuff from it, and I said something about like, I didn't say it was boring, but it was like I made like some kind of like snarky comment, and my editor was like, I mean, listen, you can't say that, because what if our readers are following you, and what if they thought that was a really important event, and you're making this? And I was like, oh yeah, that's right. And because it was my personal account, but nevertheless, it doesn't matter if it's a lot of people only have the one, and they, like, I don't think this guy has some people will have a separate. Maybe that's the way to go. If you feel like you want to make, Anyway, I don't want to give this guy any more advice about how to. Okay. So we have to just very quickly talk about whether Max wants to be Lewis's bestie, because Tasha and I were talking about this online, and a lot of people, if you didn't know, a lot of people think that Max desperately wants Lewis's approval and wants to be his friend. Some people believe this. I think I'm more on. I think, I don't know that I do believe that. So, but I did do a poll on our Twitter. This is completely unscientific, obviously. That goes without saying, because there were only like 273 respondents, and 21% of them just wanted to see the results. So it's even fewer than that that actually answered. Womp, womp, However, 42.1% did say, does Max I posed the question, does Max desperately want to be friends with Lewis? Please vote. Yeah. So that was, I just asked them. Yeah. 42.1% did say yes. So, I guess Tasha's point of view wins, but I want to hear the reasoning. I want to hear the.
I wish I had a scientific reason to give you. It's just, it's honestly just vibes. It's so like, the FIA. More than that, it's observation. Like, I mean, it's really just like, you see the way that like Lewis, really has taken a lot of the younger ones like kind of under his wing, and like he's very friendly with them. He goes golfing with Lando, and like he's surfing with George, and like he's creating relationships with these younger guys. Like I think he sees himself as the elder, and I think he sees that he wants to
be a positive influence
for people, and I don't think Max has that. I just think the people who are around him like have really just bred him to be this cold-blooded race demon, and he's really good at that. He's really good at that. But like, everybody's human, relationships matter, and you seeing everybody else be friends and you're the odd man out.
No.
True. I mean, and granted, I know he has friends like Lando.
Yeah, but he is very friendly with Lando. He's friendly with other people who aren't on
Danny,
the
Rick,
grid.
yeah. So yeah. But I think Lewis is one of those figures where everybody wants to be his friend. I think it's a lie to say that anybody wouldn't want him some kind of relationship with them. Do I think they'll be best friends? Probably never. But like I do think, he would want to be somebody that could, talk to him. I know Esteban talked about like there was a time that Lewis helped him figure some contract stuff out. Like you want advice, you want somebody who you can. They only are able to talk to each other really about what they do. Nobody else really understands it on the level that they do. So to have somebody with that much experience, who's such an icon, and you want to be friendly with them on good terms with them. And so, I don't know that they want to be like having dinner together or whatever, but I think he sees, and then of course you see them like in the cool down room, they're starting to like kind of warm up to each other a little bit more. You see Max is always kind of like lovingly staring at Lewis. And it's like, I was like, I knew it. And honestly, with everything that's gone on between the two of them, I hope that they could find a way to like bury the hatchet, like for real. Because I think it's all really traumatic, to be quite honest, but I think it could be really cathartic if they find a way to like come together. And bury the hatchet. I mean, it's a big ass hatchet, but
I mean, I feel like from Lewis's point of view, like when we talked about this already before, like from Lewis's point of view, I mean, he's kind of already, again, dropped the mental health, like he's already there, sort of in the sense that he's like so he's I think that Max is the one that's
balls
a
on
question
Max's
mark.
Court.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So that's my observation.
I'm just thinking about you talking about him looking lovingly at Lewis, and I just can't.
He does. There's so many. And I'm like, that's the one thing I can relate to with Max. I'm like, I would look at Lewis the exact same way if I was in the room with him. Like me and Max are here when it comes to the making eyes at Lewis.
We are Max.
Yeah. On that one little thing, on that one little thing.
Yes, on that one. Yeah, exactly.
But yeah,
I mean, he's gonna have to fight Lando for it, though.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, and he's gonna have to. Even Lando, Lando kind of was being shady for a bit about Lewis, and like Lewis has been nothing but supportive of him, and Lando has been saying all these like snarky, shady comments.
I feel like partly that is though, like him, like he definitely did. I think that when you come, I think there is something to that. Like I used to kind of like. When Lewis would say those things, especially in 2021 about Max, when he was like, when people would ask him, constantly every single 5 minutes of the day, they would be asking him about, how, and just, things between them and obviously the rivalry. And he would say, he's like, oh, I understand what it's like for a young driver who, when you come in and then there's this guy who's been like, that was me once, when I come in and I'm, haven't been here that long, and they're like the people who've been here forever and they've achieved so much, and you want to take them down, basically, like the way he used to talk about it. And I was like, I don't think that that's what's necessarily going on here, but with Lando, I think that does describe Lando. Like he came in, he was not like I recently they were asking him, are you getting frustrated and impatient because of the way things are going at McLaren, right? And he's still young, but time's a wasting, right?
Right.
And he was like, I was impatient on day one. Like you come into form, because that is what people that come in who are, you have to have the self-belief you have to have, and especially if you feel that it's you come in, you're like, I'm going to beat everybody, right? I'm the best.
Right.
That's kind of like how you have to, but yeah, the Lando's maturing. I don't like the facial maturing still, but just gonna put that out there again. I'm sorry, but it's still not doing it. It's like gotten worse in the mustache region, I feel like, where it's like he looks like he should be like selling empanadas by the I don't know what's happening.
No,
he has this like
no, it's fine. He looks fine. He's let him experiment.
Okay.
It's his facial hair.
Right. No, you're right. You're right. I should, yeah, you're right. He's trying to find himself. You're right.
Yeah, he's trying.
You're right. It's okay. It's okay. I just really like when he's just I like the baby face Lando more. I prefer that. Yeah. So but it's okay. He's growing. He's learning. It's fine. You're right. Thank you for talking me down. But I mean, there was this whole, if people didn't see it, there was this like whole piece, like he went on and on recently about how him and Lewis are getting closer, how they talk more, how they, and you can see, I mean, Lewis again has always had like that deep respect for Lando, the famous, such a great driver, Lando when he was, Lewis has always given him massive respect and
lots of
said that
praise.
he's extremely very talented and very, and you can tell he kind of wants to look out for him, even with that whole in when they had there's the kind of a kerfuffle at the start of whatever race was before this most recent one. I'm starting to already.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. When there, or maybe the one before. Oh God, I don't even remember. This is terrible. Like I have the worst memory for like that. I'm like, something happened in this race. I don't know where, when, what. Yeah. But there was like when like Lando, I forget where he was starting and Lewis was starting somewhere close to him, and then Lewis had a really good start and Lando's was also good, but then he got into kind of a little bit of a situation and then I remember Lewis in the press conference being like, if Lando had been more patient, I think he could have had a better position, and that he could have finished in a better position. Like he was very, like, and you could some people might think of that as like criticism or as, but I think he's like looking out for him. He's like, Lando, let me give you some advice. I have a lot of experience.
Yeah. I mean,
I want what's best for you.
Right. If you're going to get advice from anybody, it's going to be, you'd want it to be from Lewis. I mean, that's, and look at the start that Lando got at Silverstone. Like, beautiful start.
God. So amazing. Oh,
great start.
Amazing. Very happy for him. Very happy for everyone over there, really. Yeah. And Lewis too, it's sweet. He still has the soft spot for McLaren. It's kind of adorable, because obviously he started out with them and he has still these warm feelings towards them. And maybe they need to, it's chrome from here on out, maybe, I think, even though they didn't more chrome. Do it justice. More chrome. I mean, P2 with this amount of chrome, you put on some more, maybe you win the race. Yeah. I'm just saying.
That's what it seems like to me.
I mean, I
would at least attempt to try and see. Yeah.
This is less scientific even than the Twitter poll, but I think that idea has promise. Yeah. So, just consider it. Zach Brown. I'm sure you're listening. Yeah. So yeah. And yeah, I mean, they just did such a phenomenal job. Like, I hope everyone can stop questioning now whether McLaren was right to sign Oscar and to let go of Danny, because that has clearly been proven to be the right decision. Yeah, like, go Oscar. 1,000 times over.
Oh, and good for Oscar for like advocating for himself, right? Yeah. And like getting the hell out of that Alpine situation so he could actually race with McLaren.
I mean, exactly. With the help of Mark Webber, I'm sure, he's obviously he's really I think behind a lot of those types of decisions and moves. Obviously, as his manager, that's his entire job, right? Is to guide his career and to help him. Imagine he could have been in the Alpine instead.
Did you see that question? The media pen with Oscar, where
did they ask him?
The reporter was like, yeah, with these points that you guys got today, basically you jumped ahead of Alpine. Right. He's looking at the screen behind him and he just like turns around and like kind of has like a smile and just like sort of he says everything but like without saying a word, and it's just the funniest thing. Yeah.
I really like him. I'm really, really a big fan of his, I think, at this point. Yeah. Like he's got like, again, I've told people on the show before, and I'm going to say it again. He is the truth. Like, I'm telling people, like, he didn't drive for a year. He gets into this McLaren, which 8-time whatever race winner Daniel Ricciardo could not get his head around for the life of him. Yeah. He gets into this car day one, and he's very close to Lando, who is considered one of these generational talents, who's a future world champion. Oscar, I think too, is a future world champion if he can get in the right car. Whether it's eventually this one or some other one, we'll see.
Yeah.
Like he is, I'm telling you, this kid is like, and if you listen, I listened to some of his radio during the race. I cannot even begin to express how calm, or like sometimes a lot of time he'll just say nothing, like because it doesn't require a response. So that all drivers do that, but like he's just so calm, so mature, so self-assured. So I don't know if people saw, but after qualifying, they do a press conference after qualifying as well, and he was like, "It's nice to be back here." I was like, "But this is your first top 3 qualifying in Formula One." No, he meant because like he was used to being in those all the time in the junior categories. Like he was like, "This is where I belong."
Right.
I mean,
it's a great mentality.
It's a quiet, like it's this quiet. It's not obnoxious. It's not like egotistical and bombastic. He's like, "Yeah, it's nice to be back here."
Yeah.
It was just like this is where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
I was like, "Yeah, okay, Oscar, I see you." It was just so like I think from someone else that would come off as very obnoxious, but he seems like a very, grounded, normal young man. He seems just very like, he's just very focused, very, and Zach has talked to, he's like, Oscar's a student of data, maybe in contrast to someone else. I just sort of felt like maybe that was a little bit I don't know. But the fact that he can, they were like, he'll come in and he'll be like, "Okay, what's Lando doing? And let's see if I can do the same thing," and then go out and actually do it.
Yeah.
Like, and then or you tell him like, once you tell him like, here's what you like, right away he's able to, all the things engineers will tell drivers, you can get more time in this corner, or try this, or do, and he will just do it. Yeah. And I mean, that's, I don't know what else to say. He's a star.
Yeah.
However, all the people saying that he deserved P3, I think is a little unpleasant.
Yeah.
And I'll say, to Oscar's credit, he didn't use the word deserve. He was like, "Yeah, of course that would have been nice." And he was like, but he was, again, very nice young man. Yeah. Says the right things without being like George Russell, who also used to say all the right things. Not so much anymore.
Yeah. He's tired.
I feel like this is actually Oscar. Like, this is genuine. Like, this is not someone putting on an act and saying all the right things and doing, like, he's just a very genuine, very down to earth. Again, he's very unaffected. He's very like, "I'm here to race this car. I'm not like, he's just very, very, very normal boy." Boy, I know he's not a boy, but he looks very young.
Yeah. He's like, what, 22? He's pretty young.
Yeah, he's a year younger than Lando only. Yeah. So it's funny when people are like, Lando's Lando's been there a long time, but they're a year apart, FYI. But that definitely, I was like, it was like 12 different, I think I counted at one point like how many people said that Oscar deserved that P3. I understand that people are excited about this fresh, young, new talent. I understand it's very exciting that he did so well in a race in his rookie year.
Right.
I mean, some people have come in as a rookie and won races, but that was a better car, now, to be fair, but still, like, that kind of, it was just like when everyone, it was like if one person says it, okay, 2 people, 3 people, from Lando even 2, I'm willing to be like, okay, because that's like his teammate and he wants him to do well, and he wants him to be up there with him, and how exciting that would be to be. That would have been the inverse of Lando's previous kind of, well, not because Daniel won the race at Monza that year, and Lando was P2, but it would have been like a similar experience where 2 McLaren drivers on the podium, and they would have been so excited, and would have been so great for the team. It was obviously still great for the team, but but like, so I understand it from him. I understand it from Zach. I understand it from, but every single other person, like the commentators, again, a certain George Russell, being like that Oscar deserved that. Like, what, again, this concept of deserving, of deserving something in motorsport is really weird, is really strange, because that is what people said in 2021 about Max. They said, well, things wasn't done, but Max deserved it. Max deserved it. Or like, again, here, Oscar deserved it. Even though, how many times has that happened to a driver that a safety car situation doesn't go your way? Right. You know, it's an extremely common situation. It's part of it, that's not like, if you were to imagine, if you were to like look at every race as what someone actually deserved, like you'd have a lot of people who won races and that shouldn't have won them. You'd have people that, because they didn't deserve to win. It was, there was a, 5-car accident, and then there was, this person won the race. So they didn't really deserve it. Well, did they not deserve it? They still did what they had to do to win. Right. That's still, you can put an asterisk next to it if you want, but they still had to do what they had to. You still have to do the thing. Right. Lewis, even though he even said he banked on that like strategy of like a safety car. He was like, I was prepared on that first set of tires to go like
as long as possible. Yep.
As long as humanly possible.
I think he said 50 laps. I'm like, oh my God. Exactly. He was going to do that thing. We have one lap left.
Yeah. And so, and I'm like, this is, it's just very, it's when it's over and over and over, it's just very grating when it's just so clear that people are like, oh, Lewis, he's had enough podiums already. He's had enough, like, it's like, let someone else have a chance. Like, what kind of attitude is that?
That's chances, you guys are all racing. So if you don't take the opportunity to overtake him, if you don't get that chance then the person who's on the podium gets the podium. Like, that's how I feel. Like, Lewis almost never has safety car luck. It's actually painful to see. Yes, you see there's a safety car, and it's just like instant war flashbacks. So totally.
Oh my God! And I was having them during this race, of course. When it was the virtual safety car. Let me just say, by the way, I am an agnostic, but prayer works. Because when it was the virtual safety car, I was like, dear God, because he had gone past the pit entry. If people remember when it was first, I'm sure everyone was like, oh yeah, everyone will get to pit. But Lewis had gone past, and I was like, please, God, let it be a full safety car right now. And then like 2 seconds later it was. So I'm just saying, I'm becoming a believer. I don't know, because it worked.
Someone upstairs was listening. That's all we know.
I mean, maybe. So, I mean, again, this concept of deserving is when people say it over and over and over about certain drivers and never about others, or never, it definitely seems to feel like what people are saying is that they're entitled to it, not that they're deserving, because you're deserving of what you get. Basically, with what you, again, this is sport. This isn't, this is supposed to be, that's why people love sports, because one of the reasons people like sports, I think, is because it's the closest you can get to like a pure meritocracy, something that does not exist in the real world. In the real world, your effort is not necessarily rewarded with everything that it could or should be. In the real world, things are unjust. Oftentimes there's but people talk, the way that like Toto has that whole thing, like the stopwatch never lies, that's why we love motorsport, because it's this pure form of, if you're the best, then you will get the best results. But there are all these things that happen, but that's part of sport. Again, it's not like, so no one deserves anything.
He drove well, and I mean, yes, I think it would have been great if he got a podium, but I think the race played out how it played out.
Many podiums in his future, I gotta believe.
He did great.
And it's like, did Lando deserve to win that race in Russia? Did there are so many, you could think of like so many examples of things where, now in that case you could say, you could say that was his decision, not to pit, and Oscar didn't, the safety car situation didn't go his way. But again, Lewis still had to do everything he had to do. to get that to stay in that position. Like you're still again, like people when Esteban Ocon won in Hungary, a lot of people would say, well, there's all the, Bottas took out like however many cars at the beginning of that race.
Well,
and it allowed, but Esteban still had to do the thing. He had to defend. He had to still, it's not easy to race at the front actually. Or in any position to keep your position. It's hard.
Yep.
So it's just a problematic framing, I feel like.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know we haven't talked that much about the race. Were there any like big highlights for you? The
big highlights? Not really.
Yeah.
I do feel like,
really,
I mean, the first,
right?
I did really enjoy the first like 3 laps of the race.
Yeah.
Just because it was like fun to see somebody besides Max lead from the beginning.
I know.
And yeah, Lando's start was insane. Oscar had a great start.
Yeah, they did great.
And then, I think after the safety car got a little bit interesting as well. And I don't know, I felt like it was at least it was more solid. I do remember at some point in the middle, like praying for rain. Because I was just like, okay, things have settled a little bit too much.
Although I don't know that we should pray for rain. If we're praying for Lewis, I don't think we, I'm not so sure, to be honest. There's something up with this car in the there's not a, like that's always been the like, not joke, but like people are always saying like, oh, rain, Lewis is gonna, do awesome, right? Because Lewis is good in the wet.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not the only one, but he's obviously known for that. One of the things he's known for. And I'm like, I don't think that's true with this car, everyone. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's the rear. They don't have the rear that suspension that they need.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have any grip. So I mean, it doesn't have grip when it's dry. So it just is horrible when it's raining.
Yeah, it's just not, Lewis is not able to be Lewis in that car, unfortunately. It's very sad. But on the other hand, like I do think there are a lot of people that are freaking out kind of, unnecessarily, I guess. Like, I mean, I wouldn't call myself even a Mercedes fan. I mean, I'm a Lewis fan, a Yuki fan, an Alex fan. Alex Albon, by the way, should be said.
Yeah.
P7 in the constructors all on his own.
By himself. He's doing great this season. Yeah.
I do not like all the talk of suddenly now people talking about how like he should come back to Red Bull. I'm like, no. I don't want that for Alex. No one should want that for Alex.
Yeah.
Please stop. I stop trying to make fetch happen.
Yeah. Yeah, not a fan of that either. I don't think he needs to go back.
There's so much talk of that as if this would be like this heroic homecoming for him. Like imagine, they punted him and now he's, but I'm like, no, we don't. Alex doesn't need that drama. It's let him have a happy life.
Yeah, let him live his best life at Williams. I think they're doing great.
Yeah, so. it's not important. But I mean, I just think there's a lot of funny things like Ferrari. First of all, what on earth? I mean,
another Ferrari disaster class. That was crazy. Actually,
it really was.
I was like, wait a minute, what's going on here? Like, I didn't really expect them to be great, but I did not expect Carlos Sainz to just be.
No, it was so bad.
Like.
It was so bad. And then
at the end,
Aston Martin, like the honeymoon's over, I guess, the honeymoon has ended. I feel like it's something, it's after other teams have caught up a bit and there's, it is becoming interesting now. Like again, for people who are like, oh, this is boring. Yeah. Okay. Max is going to like win everything, but there's so much excitement behind. It's from P2 down. It's a stellar
anybody's
season.
game. Yeah. It's anybody's game after P2. Yeah.
There's a lot going on. It's interesting. It's very interesting. Who's gonna, is Mercedes gonna stay in second? Is who's gonna get, I mean, it looks like McLaren right now has the better of Alpine. Will that stay that way? I don't know. It's how many more points can Alex get? Scuderia Alex Albon,
basically.
I don't know. The sky's the limit, maybe.
Yeah.
It's funny. Like I love the fact, this is what I love about Formula One from the standpoint of a fan who we don't know anything about, that we can know some things about the tech or the whatever, but like we know nothing. But what's funny is the people who are actually running the cars sometimes also know nothing. Like that's just hilarious to me. Like because Williams, they were, in practice especially, they were like crazy fast, and there was all this. People were like, "What the hell is going on?"
Right.
And of course, they were asked, and they're like, "Well, we're not exactly sure either."
Yeah.
Like that's what's fascinating to me about, and that's when it reminds you that this is a prototype vehicle,
right,
that you've made for one season, and it's technically different at every track too.
Yeah.
Like you're driving a different, and it's like, it's just bananas.
Yep.
It's like, it's crazy when you think about that. This is what these people are doing. Like, it's amazing anyone could figure anything out. It reminds me of like, I remember knowing someone once who was a medical student, and they were talking about, they were telling me about, they were doing like the part of medical school where they learn about fetal development and pregnancy and all this stuff, whatever, all the stuff having to do with that, and how, all that, whatever. And they said they got this newfound respect for kind of like human life and the way that, because they were like, along the way, they were like, there are 500,000 million things that can go wrong. They're like, it's a miracle any baby is ever born. True. Like, at all.
That's true.
They're like, it's just insane. Like they were telling, and the average person probably doesn't think about it, but it's like, there's so much that can, and I'm not even talking about like, but they were literally like, it's amazing that this even happens.
Yeah.
That it's incredible. Right. And I was like, and that's how I feel about like these cars. I'm like, it's amazing that they're even able to like put them together and drive them and to like have them do anything that they want them to do, because they've designed them. But yet you have these situations where teams will say, we don't know. Yeah. We don't know why we were so fast, or we don't know why we were so slow, or we don't know why we just don't know. Yeah. It's just like, it boggles the mind.
Yeah, it is interesting how it's just like, it's a crapshoot. Like they do the best that they can, and then the rest is with God. Who knows? Yeah.
It's just fascinating. It's and I mean, they were all at Williams, and Alex was like, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. He did say that he thinks that they had that they kind of were right on setup, like right from the get-go, and maybe other teams kind of caught up over time, and that's, again, I was thinking a lot about the Mercedes at that point, about how like, it's very obvious that I feel like it's going to be a very, very bad weekend anytime there's a sprint race, I think. Because they really need all those practices.
We need more time to set up our car.
It's going to be, so anytime there's a race weekend, probably like, you just brace yourselves. You know, a sprint weekend. I mean, a race weekend. Yeah. Well, you could brace yourself for every race weekend, I guess, too, because things are, not going the best. Anyway, but very happy for Lando, for McLaren, and I think it was overall a pretty good race. Yeah. I'd say, stuff happened. There was stuff happened. Yeah. It's so specific. Yeah. Okay, let's get to our tweet of the week, as it is getting late in the evening. So our tweet of the week this week, I actually had a very hard time deciding, because there were some really good contenders. And I may actually declare a tie, but one of them was, I posted that horrible, and I know you saw it, that horrible ESPN F1 photo of Lando, where they put that, whatever he's, I'm pretty sure you saw it. It's like where he looks like all like grizzled, and like they do this horrible photo editing.
They do their shitty filter, on everything. But I didn't see Lando's photo.
Okay. Oh my God, it's so frightening. I will show you. Because I tweeted, I'm like, how are you gonna do Lando like that? Like, this is, he's 23 years old. Like, this is, you got to be kidding me. Yeah. And our loyal listener Asaf tweeted, he's aged very well, this 53-year-old driver, because that's what they made him look like. It was embarrassing. I don't. Wow. Why do they do that? Do you, Tasha?
You're a photographer. Deep fried. I call it. Well, I don't call it deep fried. The Twitter calls it deep fried. And that's I just what people co-opted it. It's Hilarious.
But like as a photographer, as someone who actually, like does this professionally, oftentimes, like what is happening?
They have sharpened the hell out of it. So basically any fine line or pore or wrinkle that is on your face is going to be really overly emphasized. I guess it's kind of like an HDR trend, which is like, I don't really want to over explain that, but like it just gives, it's like you are bringing out every detail in a photo, and you see it a lot in like landscape photography or nature photography. Makes everything kind of pop. But when you do it to a person, it makes them look dehydrated like a little raisin that's been in the sun. And I think ESPN will have to pay for their crimes at some point, because they do it to it's the worst filter ever.
Why? Sky does it too, actually. I've seen Sky do it too. Yeah. Why are people
I would sue them if I was a celebrity or athlete. I would sue them.
I know, I might. I know, like, this is not what I look like. Yeah, seriously. This is not me. Like, what? It's just, it's bizarre. Yeah, it's extremely, extremely bizarre.
It's the worst.
But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and say it's a tie with that tweet, and a tweet from another loyal listener, Kevin, who tweeted in response to there was that picture of, there was that thing like Christian Horner apparently invited drivers for a barbecue after the race.
Hope everybody brought their own salt. Yeah.
Listeners, Tasha rolled her eyes, just so you know, if you're not watching, as did we all, I'm sure. But so he invited everyone, and he was asked if everyone came, and he said no, it was about half the grid. So we don't know who was there and who wasn't. Maybe we'll get some information on that in the coming, if there were some photos or whatever, maybe we'll see. But I posted on our Twitter, what were the other half of the grid doing? Wrong answers only. And Kevin said, out qualifying Perez. And see, now said, but I did say wrong answers only.
Right.
So I was saying like that was right.
Oh, no.
And he was like, no, technically it is wrong because he was out qualified by more than half. And I was like, ooh. Damn. Sick burn.
That's crazy.
But accurate.
Very accurate. It's the truth.
Very accurate.
It's the truth.
Yeah. A lot of discussions being had about Checo. I still think it's premature. I think he's going to be there next year, which is where his contract is still for all of next year. I don't think they're going to, the contracts are not worth the paper they're printed on in Formula One, you could say, or, maybe especially with Red Bull, but I really think he's going to be there. Who are you going to get to, like, I still don't know who they're going to get if they do let him go. Honestly, I don't really know who you put in there. Like, I would put, that's actually where I would put Danny. I would put him there because, like, someone who's just happy to be there would be like the ideal scenario. And that's what you have in someone like Checo, or like you could put in like it was Asif, who I mentioned, who's one of the Tweet of the Week winners. He was saying, him and I were talking, and he was saying Nico Hulkenberg. You could put in like a people, something like that would work maybe. Yeah. Someone who's, again, older, who's happy to be there,
a little bit of a journeyman,
happy to pick up the paycheck. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they don't need the glory. They don't need the, then they would do like a solid job. Yeah. Presumably, and they would, that's what you need there until one day when Max leaves. I don't know what you do then. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, people keep talking about it as if Red Bull wants two Max Verstappens in there. No, they do not.
Yeah,
they don't. They don't unless they actually get pressured by another team at some point for the constructors, and they don't care about the constructors. Let's be real. Like, they don't. They mainly care about the, because
and Max is winning it by himself anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Exactly. So like, it doesn't matter. But again, even if they were, maybe in some future scenario, a year or 2 years or 3 years down the line, maybe other teams will be closer and maybe will be challenging them. And then you do need two drivers who are performing at there. But do you? I mean, it depends. Yeah. It depends on how, it just depends on how things. So yeah, I think those discussions are always premature. Yeah. But anyway, we have talked long enough. Thank you for listening. If you've gotten this far, or for watching, guys. Again, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, do all the things. Don't forget that you can email us. We are at racing_. That's that's the social media. It's late, everyone. I'm tired. Racing Incident Pod, POD, Racing Incident Pod at gmail.com. If you have any comments, questions, or suggestions, shoot us an email. And yeah, that's pretty much it for us this week. We will talk to you next week.
See you guys. Bye.
Bye.